Okay, so I wanted to critique this one. You guys requested that I critique this one. You guys said that there was something wrong about her body and you weren't quite sure what it was. And I wanted to talk about this one really quickly and then jump into this one and talk about this one next. This artist is saying that they really need help with their lighting. They really need help with their illustrations. And I wanted to help them out a little bit, show them what's missing and what's not feeling right for the viewer. So the first thing I'm going to do is talk about the Caitlyn one because the correction here is very small. The lighting is sunlit, it's daylight, so all the colors get to come out and have fun. You don't really need a filter in the environment if the sun is out. So you guys remember that darken value that I do? Where I just throw a blue shade over everything. You don't need that in sunlit environments. There is like a cool tone here, but we also see a lot of warm tones. Every color gets to shine in direct sunlight. So that's why this piece looks so wonderful, looks so amazing. All the colors are really popping, is because it's direct daylight, blue sky. So when you are doing that, you can just pull colors pretty much from everywhere within reason, and it'll all look good together. So this is like the perfect representation of daylight values or sunlit values. You can argue it's early sunset because of the way the shadow is moving. But if you look at any one section of a league splash, you can see it's all pretty standard values that just seem to pull from the same formula for color picking. And then you can see all the coolness in the shadows and all of the yellow in the highlights. Everything is just working perfectly up until you get to this here, this area, this fun little area. So how is this possible? You know, a lot of people look at it and they say something's off. So this is not me. This is not my personal observation. I don't play Caitlyn. I've never really looked through her skins. And so I never really noticed this until someone pointed it out to me and sent it in. So the shoulder line ends right around here. Naturally, that line would move into a shoulder right here, right? The next natural, so let me white out the background a little bit so that we can kind of get an easier time looking at this. And then the waistline, oops, the waistline ends up traveling like that. So this is where the natural next line would be. This is where the shoulder should be for a waistline that ends there. So we have like a lot of displacement, a lot of discrepancy here in this area. And I think that's what people are reporting, that they're saying something about the skin feels off. It's that small little degree of change. It's crazy how a small degree of change when looking at a human body results in this many people talking about it. When you are looking at a face and a face is just perfectly symmetrical, staring right at you, except for one eye being slightly higher than the next, you just notice it, even though the movement of the eyes, it's just so small. We notice it right away because humans are experts at humans. Humans are experts at looking at what looks like a human and what doesn't. And there's actually a really creepy backstory to this in our evolution. Somewhere in there, in our history developing into what it is we are now, there was a time when we lived at the same time as less human humans, and so we were they were cannibals. If you want to look at this, it's crazy. Just go look this up. Evolutionogeneticist or something. I don't know what the term is, but they're discovering that our earlier predecessors lived at the same time as a branching version of mankind that had a very, very cannibalistic way of life, and it didn't look quite like us. And so we have this awareness of what looks deformed, and what it just adds that little bit of extra fear factor in what we're seeing as disproportionate or off. Even someone who has the slightest feature change that is outside of functional symmetrical skeleton, and by functional I mean symmetrical eyes, okay size to the mandible. It can bite, it can swallow, just a functional anatomy that doesn't need surgery or anything to correct it. Like if someone's born with a jaw that's too small for the head, it's not just about looking quote unquote ugly. It's that person can't even chew their food. They have to get like their food turned into fluid for them to process it. So when you think about disproportionate stuff in pictures, and non-artists would notice this as much as an artist would, because humans have a built-in awareness system for what looks symmetrical, what looks anatomically functional, what looks genetically sound versus what doesn't look quite human, a little uncanny, a little off, a little creepy, maybe even a little bit cannibalistic. Okay, I'm just kidding. I'm just trying to make it a little Halloween for you guys, you know me. So I actually came with receipts. Okay, this time I came with receipts, and I had Abu sculpt Caitlyn in Portrait Studio. So we sculpted this in Portrait Studio just to show you how this is happening in a model, and we sculpted it almost 1-to-1. Abu did an amazing job. And you can see how we kept the head right where it needs to be as it is in the reference. We just allowed that waistline to meet with the shoulder line. So this is kind of what you'd have to do in order to match exactly what happened in the painting. Again, even in the reference now, even in the sculpture in Portrait Studio, now this looks off too. So you have to kind of like find a middle ground, find a way to make this work. You still have that curvature, you still have that feminine look to everything, but it's not, you know, it's not completely deformed. It's not something your viewers will look at and say, okay, that does not look right. Something about this looks a little bit off. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to, once my eye stops burning, because while looking for my pen nib, I touched a lot of dust, and then I touched my eyes, because why not sabotage myself in the middle of a stream? And now my eyeball is on fire. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a quick adjustment, get our eyes accustomed to it, and then see how we feel about the change. So the first thing I'm going to do is what I've taught you guys a long time ago, which is hide the section that you are having trouble with. Hide it completely. Okay, so what that does for you is that it gives you a new way of looking at, gives you a new way of looking at your mistake. So this is an example on, you know, pre-existing used media that looks great. We're talking about how this affects the, you know, the common student, how this can go as far as helping you guys in your illustrations. So what I usually do is I hide a section of the painting, just like that. I'm just hiding it just so I can have a break. My eyes can get a break from looking at it. And we're starting to notice some things. We're forgetting about this mistake, and we're starting to look at other things. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sketch out the rest of the waistline where I feel like it should be for this illustration. So just there. And then we've got the hips moving in like that. We've got the two hips. We've got the symmetry line traveling upward. Uh-oh, we ran into something. They're so bent at it. They want to contort women to unbelievable standards just so they can meet that minimum threshold of sexiness of their illustrations, that they'll do things like this to the female form and just completely throw it off. So the reason why, how to make this work, how to make it so that this model is making sense, is to keep tracking the symmetry line. So the symmetry line is right here. It's going in between the breasts, and it's coming back down like that to the neck. If that's where the symmetry line is, we would see one breast and we would see the other one somewhere back there. So they have to break a couple rules, and that's okay. Breaking rules in drawings is just fine. One breast needs to be a little bit bigger than the other. So I might make that change. The neck needs to be a little bit closer to the symmetry line. The head needs to be a little bit behind the gun because I get that they're trying to line up the eyes, but it doesn't seem like it's possible. It feels like she's bending her head. So this is the gun. She's bending her head to line up her eye to the gun. It looks like a drawing out of Adventure Time. Do you see what I'm saying? So this is the scope. It seems like she's doing that instead of just doing that. So this is the scope instead of just putting her head behind so that one eye is behind and the other is there. And I'm just going to be shifting some things, pushing some things around just so all of that is gone. Okay, so let's take a look now. So I hid this section of the painting. Let's take a look now at where all of that ended up being. Okay. Do you see how far off it is? It's like a completely different body type. It's like a completely different character. We can live with a body type like this. This is still fit. This is still sexy. And I get that in cartoons, they really shrink the waistline, and that's okay. We can do that as well. But it's not just shrinking the waistline with this drawing. They're shrinking the waistline and putting the torso to one side. They're shifting the torso over. And so in order to fix all that, it's just a quick matter of adjusting that position of the head, the position of the upper body, upper body, and then just going from there. Everything should fall right into place after that. Okay, so I'm just trying to lasso this whole area. Oops. I'm lassoing from the outside in, which is not smart. But yeah, what's making this illustration so good and what's making it pop is all of these combined glowing elements, all of the, one second, I can't think in lasso, all of the consistent lighting, all of the harmonized colors, but it's not that hard to harmonize in direct sunlight. A lot of you avoid it because you think it's a lot more grooming required for those colors than just a regular, you know, cool value or dark room or dark light environment. But actually it's a lot easier because all the colors just get to be themselves. They don't have to be anything else. Meaning you don't have to do tricks of the eye to get it to work or anything like that. Let's select inverse now and just get some stuff out of the way. Oops. I really only want this section here. Okay. And I'm going to leave that far section alone. Oops. All right. And I'm going to select what do I want to do? Yeah, let me just take that entire arm section with it. That should help us quite a great deal. And I'll leave the waistline alone just for now. Okay, so we're gonna select and delete. I'm just gonna repair the background as quickly as possible so that we can just quickly throw things in. And in all league splashes, in all of them, there's always going to be a little bit of a silhouette. And these critiques are fun because it's like I get to study the league splashes for you guys, which is really interesting for me because it's like a master study. And I'm just cleaning up around here. Okay. And you guys should do master studies. Master studies are really amazing learning tools. They make all the difference because they, this resolution is full resolution. Because they really show you exactly what went into this painting, fundamental by fundamental. It's a really, really amazing way to jump in. So we have this here now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shift that over so that it is aligned in that way. Do you see that? So one thing I want to do is just take this off. Merge that back down. Okay, so let's do that again. Are you guys watching? It's just a simple shift until the shoulder line matches in alignment with that waistline, like I drew earlier, but obviously this was drawn on the old anatomy. So until it's matching it. Okay, and then what we can do after that is just, but it's cool that you guys think of yourselves as less skilled by a lot. You guys think this is like God tier rendering. And so you say that you notice these things, but you discredit yourselves. And then you ask me, hey, am I seeing things? Is this really, you know, something's off about this? Is this messed up, or am I just seeing things? Stuff like that, questions like that. And no, you're not seeing things. It actually did look a little bit off, a little bit difficult to believe. And so now it feels like it's just matching that body. And then what I'm going to do is find out exactly how much of the face we're losing. We're barely losing anything of the face if we just put the face a little bit behind that gun. So we're not losing a lot. Before I do that, though, I'm still not 100% sure how much of the head I want to tilt and how much of the neck I want to fix. So remember, we had an issue with the neck and this breast right here, which doesn't make much sense. One breast feels a lot smaller than the other one. It's like one is a D cup and one is a B cup. Do you see what I'm saying? So really quickly, I'm just going to adjust that because one arm lifts up. If you're a girl and you got boobs, you know, one arm lifts up, one of those boobs is just going to fall right over the other one. So what we want to do is just select and enlarge. You guys should be a big fan of this change. And I'm just going to almost flex it because there's muscles under the breast that push it out a little bit and make it flex a little. 1 minute, please. I just got to clear my throat. Okay, so I'm just cleaning that up. That should look like it's a little bit more in line with the rest of the size of the breast. And then maybe lower it so it's closer to where the pectorals would be. I'm just going to try to adjust the head. I don't know how I'm going to pull that off, but I'm going to keep in mind that part of the gun and just take that section, disconnect it from this pretty collar, and just try to do something with the rotation of the head. Okay, so I'm gonna do my best to clean this up. Don't worry. So that neck, I just want it to catch on to the incoming symmetry line. And I'll show you guys what I mean in a second. So that neck needs to be somewhere in between the breast line. So if I draw a line coming from here, in between the breasts, going down in between the rib cage and meeting with the stomach, that's the symmetry line of the front part of the torso. That's what you track when you're drawing figure drawing. You don't try to find the internal spine. That's also a symmetry line, but from the back. From the front, you find that middle symmetry line that runs between all of these middle landmarks, let's call them. Okay, so I just want to clean things up. So I'm just going to match things up back together again. I'll disconnect those two. So I'm just going to clean up what I did, because I don't want it to be a messy before and after. I want it to look clean and finished. Okay, so then we have the other breast just there, and you guys can see that breast from before. It was just so tiny, but yes, I did move things over. And then now I'm going to just delete away. And I think her head being behind, I don't know if they have requirements. I don't know if League has rules where you're not allowed to hide the character's head. Do you guys know about that? Have you guys heard of something like that? Maybe they're not allowed to hide the head for some kind of skin thing. But now I feel like it's more believable to some level. We still see the face. We just have like a side of the head that's hidden a little bit. But anyway, I digress. Let me go ahead and clean this. I think automatically, accidentally, as you get older, you just do more puns that you just don't even notice you're doing them. I think that's a sign of aging, is that you're just doing more puns. Whether you like it or not, your brain is providing you with pun instincts. Okay, so delete. Oh my goodness, we deleted it. Let's go and clean up the delete. My pencil losing its nib was the weirdest shit that happened to me all day. Like, I don't even know why that even happened. And I deleted too much. Oops. All right, we're going to take a look at the before and after. You're going to see for yourselves. And again, if viewer noticed this, you guys are just putting in requests for which skins look weird to you and you're not sure why. This would be one of them. And so because now we have one object behind the other, I do have to, oops, where did my tablet go? My tablet died. I do have to add a little bit of a shadow behind the mouth, ever so slightly, and it could be just the most simple shadow, just so that those two surfaces aren't colliding with each other. So just a bit of a shadow behind the gun. Okay. And I'm just going to make sure that that ambient occlusion, oopsie, make sure that that ambient occlusion shadow isn't discoloring the skin. So I zoom out. All changes made zoomed in have to be adjusted when zoomed out. Okay, so that, see that shadow? It just kind of helped tuck her head into the gun a little bit better. So did I damage anything in a significant way? I don't think so. Did we change anything big? I don't feel like we did. I'm just going to do a little bit more work on the gun, just so that that kind of form study that is the gun, it just makes a little bit more sense. And so I'm just going to give it just a bit more highlight, just in like these patterns that they like to do. Just like that. And just use the sky color wherever you're confused about what surface does what. Just use the sky color. That will always get you out of any situation. The sky color really does a lot. When you're confused, okay, what color is in this section that's not in this side? That's always going to be the sky color. And I'm just going to round off this edge. Round off the edge here. I don't know why I'm using soft brush. Okay, so we are going to flatten the whole thing. Let me see if I missed anything. Oh yeah, let me unflatten. I'm just going to clean up what I did back here. So quick little adjustment just there. I don't want to damage anything too much. I'm trying to just get in, get out. Okay, before I get executed. I just want to show you guys what this changes real quick before they notice us, before the alarms go off. I'm just gonna quickly just show you the before and after and get the fuck out of here. All right. What is going on? Oh, I'm on eraser. Why? All right. Doesn't matter. I think I uploaded the nocturne video. I definitely uploaded it. Okay, and then I'm just throwing some, see that little light corner they have there? I'm just gonna do something like that. Unfortunately, now we have a bit of a tangent, so maybe I'm gonna just get soft brush and try to distort that corner, you know, with some random stuff. You can do that. You can cheat like that. Just bring in a random halo around her character and throw that in there. One more thing, that ambient occlusion can be a little bit darker. So I'm going to duplicate it. Oops, that's not going to work. I'll just do another layer. I don't know why it's deleted in one section. Oh, that's why. Okay. Because I did that. So let me find that, duplicate it, go here and delete whatever I did there. And just that new layer of ambient occlusion, I'm just deleting it to the area where the gun actually touches the face. Just there. Just see that? That really is just needed just to show that the skin and the gun are touching and they're blocking some light together. They've created a crevice. And that's what ambient occlusion is. You can't just have a completely lit edge meet another edge and they don't create a pocket against which the light is not visible. Okay, so let's take a look at the before and after. Are you guys, whoa, are you guys ready? Before, whoa, before, after. Okay, do you guys see that? Before, after. I didn't do this. They asked me to look at this. Before, after. Before, after. Again, it's akin to completely dislocating the torso and pushing it back. Yeah, we don't want to do that. We're just innocently leaving the body alone. Yes, you can still do pinup and keep things very symmetrical. All I'm doing is matching the shoulder line to the waistline. That's it. And let me draw again for you the symmetry line. Remember, when you're talking about a female torso, okay, there's the symmetry line. There's the symmetry line in the front, which it touches the belly button. So it touches the belly button. It goes in between both rib cages. It goes in between both breasts, in between both collarbones, and then find its way to the neck. That's what I was looking for. So it starts here, starts from the chin, goes down, goes in between the breasts, goes in front, and sorry, in between the rib cage somewhere here, goes back down, goes back up for the stomach, and then meets at the pelvic bone. Okay, so where we were before, it was not even in the same realm. It was doing something like that. It was as if they took that whole section of the body and moved it that way. So this is the curse of drawing realistically. As a sketch, this would have looked fine. It looks fine from a distance. As a sketch, it looks fine. But when you add realism, the mistakes you made in your lines come through. Okay? Write that back to me. When you add realism, more mistakes are visible. So they added quite a bit of realism here. It's still cartoony. It's still almost cell shading, if you can use that term. It's still very, very cartoony. You look at the way things are rendered, it's actually really simple. It's nothing crazy. They're not pulling some crazy tricks out of the box. Do you know what I'm saying? These are pretty standard rendering skills. No offense at all. So I'm just trying to say that, you know, it's the cumulative combination of all these things that make this drawing look amazing. Also, the color temperature is amazing. The light environment's amazing. The perspective's amazing. So, but when you add all of those realism methods together, you get away with less. And it still looks sexy. It still looks right. It still looks like a league splash. It still looks like she's actually needing to squint. Here, it's like, why are you squinting? You know, you're not even aligned with the gun. And here, it just makes a lot more sense. Do you guys see that? So before, after, the model is telling us this. Our eyes are telling us this. Our eyes are familiar with what's real and what isn't. This is what I mean when I'm talking, when I'm saying even the pros make mistakes. Maybe it's not even a mistake. Maybe they intended to have those really contorted pin-up drawings. But you know, when you think of league, you think of pros. So when I look at the original anatomy, I kind of want to continue the anatomy this way. So I kind of want to show you where it would have gone. So this is the shoulder line, right? This is the neckline. The torso line is somewhere here. Everything's right. And it feels like it's a character who was standing. So maybe what they had before, maybe what they had before was two different gestures. And they were trying to figure out how to, you know, combine the gestures together. So maybe there was a character standing like that. And they're like, no, 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 we like the one where she's doing a slide into, like, you know, the sliding into place, and let's just combine the two together. Do you see what I'm saying? So that makes this breast make sense, and they kind of want to show both for the maximum sales. So do you see what I'm saying? This was right if they had stuck to the original, whatever draft it was that they combined to make both gestures happen. So this looks cool. A standing one with her, you know, this looks cool too. But they obviously picked the more dynamic gesture. She's sliding, it's forward, and it's filling the scene up, and it looks good. And then if they are going to do that, let's just try to make everything symmetrical and everything working properly in the figure. You can't just, you know, take one gesture and, you know, force it to be something else and do all that surgery without doing all that surgery where you're realigning everything back to the symmetry line. We're just aligning things back to that symmetry line. Okay, so yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for watching this one. I'm not done yet. I don't know why I said thank you guys for watching. I have another one coming up. But before, after. All right, so let's just close this. All right. So this one was handed into the subreddit, and they were saying things like the lighting is a little bit off. They really want a more dynamic drawing. There's so much in this scene that's missing when it comes to light as a texture. Light has a texture. Write that back to me. What does that mean? Let me show you. So images. This is light's texture. Yeah, light has a texture. Light is on the texture spectrum. Light is matter as well. It's photons, right? That's matter of some kind. It's in the three-dimensional realm, so it's got to be matter. It's got to be matter, right? That's the only way things exist in the three dimensions. If it's not, then that would be weird. So let me just sip my tea. So when we think of light, you guys are painting it as if it's just as if it's like any other texture, as if it's a pebble. You guys are painting it as if it's just like a pebble. Light is, in its nature, it's so cool. It's so different from everything else. Light is energy, but like it's matter. That's hard to describe. But for artists, we have to think of it as a texture. At least for artists, we can't think of it as like energy and all of that. We have to we do a little bit. Anyway, stay with me. So when light exists, it emanates until it can't emanate anymore because its source is usually energy, which is heat. It gives off itself until it runs out of itself. So it's constantly spreading. It's like radiation, but like really light. It's just light. that creates a texture. It creates like a really undetectable net that we think of as a glow, you know, represented really nicely by soft brush. The fact that we even have the technology to create a soft brush and have this kind of, if it's beautiful. I love that we can even have a soft brush digitally, that it's not something too complex to, you know, it's just a blessing. So when you think of all these photon rays of light traveling, creating light, this is a net. This becomes something that is actually there, creating a present, has a presence, it has a weight to it. So when you guys draw as if light is not light. You guys took the light out of light. When you guys draw, you guys forget that light glows. So if this is going to be a fire elemental and you want to create art that is breathtaking, you have to start respecting what light needs from you in order to exist in your world. And it just needs one simple thing. It needs to emanate. If you're going to draw a bunch of fiery elemental sections in your drawing and forget to add the glow, you're going to throw off your viewer. Your viewer is going to just feel like, what is that? Is that some kind of material? Usually when I look at that, I feel like I'm looking at some kind of ribbon, you know what I mean? Some kind of thing. That signature of yours, that was way too busy. You did not need it to be that big and that taking up that much room in your drawing at all, okay? We like that you have a signature. We just don't need it to interrupt the illustration. Let us enjoy the illustration. Big fat signatures are out of they're out of touch these days. You know, let's look at your skill. That's the signature. Your signature is your skill. Write that back. So I'm just trying to catch up your texture here. You can throw in your signature. Istebrak's trying to take away our signature rights. No, I'm not. I just want you guys to just please give us a chance to look at the illustration as a representation of your skill, and we will remember you. We will look for your name. You don't even need a signature. If your art is good, we'll look for you. So let's add in that light effect. Light is in two ways. It's in the softness of it, right? So is this light? So if we think of this, would we think of this as light? No. This thing? No. It's not light yet. This is just thing. This is light. It needs magnitude. It needs emanation. It needs brightness. It needs white in there. That's what makes light look like light in an illustration. And of course, it's a struggle as an artist trying to represent the texture of something like light. I thought I just had to use like a light tone. Why are you telling me I need to use tones that I'm not allowed to use on the face, but on light, I thought I wasn't allowed to use white on the face. I don't know why I sound like Mickey Mouse, but it's because you guys are so wary of texture that light becomes a scary thing when painting it or adding it in a paint. Even professionals struggle with placing a light source in a scene. When you're painting an environment, avoid adding the sun because it's just gonna eat up the whole painting. Keep the sun off the scene. So yes, painting light is complex, but sometimes your character has magical elements on it. What are you gonna do? This is what you do. You use those light effects at the end of the painting. You paint knowing that you're going to throw the emanation all the way up. So that said, we have so many different, what's the term? Different conditions happening here in the painting that are completely crazy. You've got 6 hands. They all have some element. You've got this super element of light traveling around the whole painting. Okay. So you've got all this, and I'm not trying to completely destroy your drawing. This light is behind her character. There is 0 eclipsing happening. The background is getting none of this light. Have you ever had a bonfire or even lit a candle in your room? The whole room starts to gain the color of that candle. Have you ever tried to turn a blue lamp on, you know, those cute little room lights? just plug in blue light and they just shift the light, your whole room changes color, right? Like, say yes, I've seen that. So I know I'm not crazy. You guys have seen your rooms turn blue when you have a blue light on, right? So why is that not allowed in your illustrations? So the whole scene needs a little bit of that color change. So I'm just gonna do that first. And I really think this is what's missing in your gallery. There is no presence of light anywhere. Okay, so we're just trying to catch up to that. Then there's the magic itself that she's doing. The whole scene is asymmetrical, by the way. The circle seems to extend on one side more than the other. Then you've got something happening here. You've got a narrative. You've got some kind of magical event happening here. She seems to be losing an arm, or her arm is in front of itself, and she's weaving the magic, and the magic source is this corrupted hand, etc. Okay, so this is a lot to manage. So then what I'm going to try to do is start eclipsing things. So this magic is right behind her cloak. So let's at least start there. Pick a spot and start there. You've got a part of her belt that's in front of this magic wheel. And what I'm going to do is eclipse that next. I don't know why you added highlight. Everything is getting a highlight. You're using it willy-nilly, and that's why you're getting so little results, because you're using the trick everywhere, and so when it's time to use the trick, it's not effective. Not everything needs a magical trail to it, and you can still have that to make it seem like the magic is imbued in every part of her, even her costume. You can do that. You just have to do it in a smaller amount, in tiers, in proportion to the what you're trying to say. Okay, so we're starting basically from the ground up, I guess. It's a lot to unpack. It's a lot to try to correct here. So I need to start eclipsing some things, meaning that the light behind her is causing a lot of contrast change, and changing the weight of the contrast that's distributed across the painting. So this makes it so that what's in front of the light gets a little bit eclipsed, just like an actual eclipse. Okay, so this is darkened a little bit. I'm going to relighten it in a second. But before I do, I just want to at least find where her legs are. And a lot of you really like this type of lighting. If you're going to paint, if you're going to work in art, period, you're going to deal with a lot of magical illustration, a lot of magical anything, a lot of magic, period. A lot of artists are working for literal Magic the Gathering. So you're going to be drawing a lot of magical fires and a lot of magical spells and a lot of magical events happening in your illustration. If you don't know how to make light glow, you're going to struggle, because it's not going to feel magical enough anymore. So what I'm trying to do is capture as much as I can of the silhouette so that we can help her emerge from the background. And this can be sporadic. It doesn't need to be one consistent silhouette all around. It can be a silhouette in this section, but direct light in this section. And what I'm doing now is I'm trying to find that light smoke, that light presence, whatever it is, directly behind her feet, so that we can help her emerge from that background. Okay, and then I'm going to delete away at it in like sections, and then select the inverse, and then just darken her a bit more with burn on shadows, just so we can get that separation. Do you see that? It's a nice bit of separation between background and foreground. Before it was just a little bit messy. This helps clean things up a bit. All right, and then I'm just going to kind of incorporate it there somehow. Okay, then we've got this big magical movement here, and I'm just going to use it to create some rim light running across her cloak. Okay, so let's go ahead and merge that down. And that's going to help, again, create a more organized, I think I did too much. That's going to create a more organized look here. Do you see that? So we're just trying to track down where all of this light is affecting her character, either as a silhouette, a rim light, or head-on light. But you aren't doing that. You're just doing whatever you want without tracking the light map. The light map is all the arrows jumping around in the painting. So we would say the biggest arrow is the arrow behind her, all of those lights emanating exactly like the photons I just showed you, emanating out of that wheel of light, that magical wheel, the spell wheel behind her. Okay, so we're trying to organize what you did here. We still have all this magical presence in the scene. It's just not eating up the painting anymore. It's very organized. Okay, and I'm just trying to throw in that rim light here. If you don't know how to stop and diagram your light, you're not ready for illustrations. Write that back to me. You need to start diagramming your light, meaning track down the primary. What are the primary's arrows? Track down the secondary. What are the secondary's arrows? And then work your way up from there. So that alone has helped us quite a bit. I'm going to get some of this light, this magical light, and use it on the bottom of the painting, just as if it's like throwing off some kind of magical presence on the bottom of the floor underneath her. Oops. Okay, and I don't know why it's so intense. Maybe because I have it as 100%. And I'm just trying to show how that ground is getting a lot of that reflective presence of the light, just in those different explosions. The ground is reflecting some of that light. This I know because I'm seeing arrows all over the place. If you look through my eyes, you'd see a lot of arrows. Okay, and I'm just throwing a little bit. You can see how I introduced another color. You were looking very monochromatic. Okay, so that's that. We fixed that. You could do a little bit more to darken the lower half of her dress. You could definitely push things a little bit further. Because it's the lower half of the canvas, we don't miss all these things. We're not going to miss it. Oops, select inverse. Sophie, shh, please. I'm going to use highlight to darken as well, and midtone. Okay, so that's out of the way. Now we can go back up here where there is an actual focal point. I'm going to flatten the whole image. No, not flatten. I'll try to do that. I need to bring it down. I need to bring the whole painting down. So duplicate, lock. What I'm trying to do, oh, what's happening? Oh, okay. So what, what, cancel. Why do I have two layers again? I don't know. I'm going to just, okay, now I know. Bring the whole painting down. I'm so sorry. And recenter it so that the focal point is just like right there where we need it to be. And I'm just cleaning this up. Okay. So now we have to organize this section a little bit. And that's going to be a little tricky for me, but I'm going to do my best. And I'm just going to show you the before and after. To the best of my ability, I tried to organize this, but it's a lot to organize. You have layer access, you have your original PSD file or however you painted this. You can clean it up with your own time, but this is where you need to start. Track down your primary light source. All your light sources are overlapping, they're disorganized, they're all fighting for the first place in the painting. And when you guys don't understand light, light will get away from you. It will start to look very confusing. Looking at your painting will be a little painful for your viewer because it's just too busy. You've got all this light and none of the light magic that you drew actually is doing magical things. So I'm going to try to find the ground behind her by just identifying where the edge is of those reflections. Do you see that? So I'm just trying to find some kind of ground, creating vertical highlights running across the painting, just so it looks like a shiny floor of some kind. So we get back up here. Now the focal point is in a decent spot in the painting. It's not so bad. That's okay. I don't know why Photoshop did that to me just now. Okay, so everything is in a good spot. This whole area is so messy. It's so hard to know what to look at first. So not only are you not light tracking, you don't even know what your focal point is. The face seems like it's just a secondary object in a painting. The face should feel like it's the primary object and everything else is additional. But you have no plan of action for how to pull off the magical arms versus the real arms. The real arms and the magical arms are all drawn in the exact same general priority level. The hair, I have to squint my eyes and just try to focus just to see the hair. So I don't want to leave you stranded. I don't want to just tell you what these problems are and not show you how to fix them. The hair needs to be completely illuminated by this red magic. She basically has red hair now. That's how you pull this part off. So I'm just gonna try to show where her hair is. The background needs to be a little bit dark to get some of her hair to come through. So yeah, I don't want to just throw these corrections at you and not show you how to pull them off. This entire arm, like these arms, this arm, have to be lowered somehow in priority. You have to do something to them where they don't have the same size brush as you used on the face. They have to have a lower degree of rendering. Either you're gonna blur them with some kind of blur tool, some kind of motion blur maybe, like you got to do something so that they're less important than the focal point. It's too busy. It's too busy. You can paint. It's not a question of whether or not you can paint. You probably ask yourself, man, I know I can draw. Why aren't I getting the jobs I want? I know I can draw. You know what? Next time I draw, I'm just going to give it my all. I'm gonna go crazy. I'm gonna give it all my detail. I'm gonna spend an extra 10 hours detailing everything. That should get me all the jobs. That's not how it works. You get the jobs when you know a little bit more about organizing your illustrations. You get the jobs when you start doing the science part of the illustration homework, which is the tracking of the light, preparing of the composition. Your composition was bad. It was not going anywhere. Your light was not tracked. Your illustration was unfocused. There was no real focus anywhere in any direction, either with the magic or with the narrative or with the character. So yeah, it's a sign of really high skill to throw all your skill at a painting and just hope for the best. And yeah, you can do that. But that's not going to be what you need to do. What you need to do is all the extra organization stuff that all the other artists who have less skill than you are doing and getting the callbacks. They're getting the jobs. Isn't that unfair? It's just a little bit of planning for illustration. It's just a little bit of organization. And they learn that when, how do people learn that? Well, they learn that when they do master studies. They realize, oh, wow, this arm that I'm studying is so much less rendered than the face. This master really knows how to manage focal points. Okay? So those are the things you're ignoring. Those are the things you're forgetting to do. If this arm here, this is a lot, I'm sorry. If this arm is fake, just throw some of the background through it so that we can see that it's a fake arm. Don't over render it. This arm too, this one is fake. This one is fake. Like you need to decide which ones are going to be the ones that have less. Throwing all your skill means that it doesn't mean you're going to succeed. It means that you actually don't know what your focal point is because you're compensating. The painting isn't looking right, not because it's not drawn enough. You've overdrawn. You're overdrawing. That's a term. Add it to your terminology. There's such thing as overdrawing, and you definitely overdrew. We know you can do detail. Look at the way he did the hands, y'all. Like, what? That's amazing. But why is the rest of the painting not feeling right? Why does it feel so messy, gritty, hard to look at? It's because you overdrew. There was no focal point. You didn't prioritize the things that mattered. And in the end, you had a disorganized drawing that wasn't giving the viewer anything. Half of my corrections this entire critique hour is me just taking things off. Things are falling off the painting. I'm just taking away from the painting. I'm trying to undo the work you did. You should feel good about that because that means that, oh man, I draw so good. She had to just undraw some things. But also at the same time, it means you're being hyperactive with your rendering. That's not going to get you the jobs. It's not going to get you the callbacks. So blur, motion blur. I'm trying to do something of an effect so this wheel of fortune is not going to distract the viewer too much. I'm just trying to give us detail like this. Detail, relief. Detail, relief. You see how I blurred every other one? That's really helping us right now. Because it's letting us breathe in between all this detail overload. It's letting the viewer just breathe for a second. Okay, I'm trying, guys. I'm trying. This is a lot of work to bring down to a human level of rendering. So you should feel good about yourself, but you should also not feel good because you're overdoing it. And you shouldn't be overdoing it because you're sabotaging yourself. Overpainting is self-sabotage. Write that back to me. Overpainting is self-sabotage. Okay, so let's keep going a little bit further until I feel like I've satisfied the question as much as I can. Okay, so the next thing is the tops of the canvas. We need to darken the scene to lighten the scene. That's the rule. So I'm just going to use multiply to try to create the extra effect of the light, meaning the light is just dark, just light enough to illuminate around her. The room is dark, but the room is not, it's too big to illuminate the whole thing, which is going to make it look a lot more magical. So let me show you the before and after I did that. Okay, so it's a nice little trick to close off the top of the canvas. We're not overburdening our viewers' eyes. We're giving them a chance to breathe. We're closing things off. And it's starting to look a little bit more magical the more we work. Now we have to deal with these black drops of value behind her. I know you need them for the glowy arms, but we're losing a little bit of her silhouette. So that means if you're not allowed to have a silhouette, but you have a lot of secondary light source nearby, lean into your rim light as much as humanly possible. That's what's going to help her emerge out of this kind of messy environment and become the focal point once again. I haven't even touched the face yet. I don't think I will. I don't have that kind of time today, unfortunately. But I do offer one-on-one portfolio reviews. I do offer one-on-one portfolio reviews, and if you are interested in that, you can always check that out. And I would be able to go into exactly what's leaving you confused about your illustrations. But right now, there's only so much I can cover. And I hope the before and after illustrates to you exactly what you're doing with your art. You're overdoing. And I feel like this extends into your life as well. A lot of my students' mistakes are things they do in their life. So when students feel like they don't try enough daring things in their gallery, it's because they themselves in their life don't try new things. They don't even try a new drink. They get the same drink at the coffee shop every single time. That extends into your art. You don't try new subjects. You don't try new light environments. You don't try different studies. If you're overdoing this, it means you're overdoing other things in your life too. I've noticed a lot of the things that I do tend to reflect in my art. Of course, I mean, it's only natural that the psyche and our art are reflections of each other. So if you're overdoing this, find other ways in your life that this may be happening as well. And that should help clear up a lot of confusion. Find who you are, do some self-discovery. I've never seen in my entire time painting and teaching an artist who was this good, but this confused at the same time. Do you see what I'm saying? So lower down the expectations a little bit. I'm just going to throw a bit of purple in there just so we have something outside of that monochromatic. I really don't like monochromatic. Looking at monochromatic for me is painful. So I like to avoid it. You drew the face as if it has universal light. This is problematic because even when I added those purple lights, it kind of damaged the painting because you're not showing how this face is actually in a dark environment. So what I'm going to do is darken her face, saturate it, color correct it, and just really quickly, I'm not going to go into it too deep, show you where you need to start bringing in that secondary light source on her face. So we need to see the glow of her eyes. Also, her eyes are completely looking in different directions. I'm not sure if that was intentional or not. Oh boy. Let me just see what I can do here. Yeah, and then I'm just going to throw in some rim light just around this area, just to give you a quick example of how you don't even have the same light source consistent on the face of your character as you do everywhere else. Do you see what's happening? You have zero light tracking. This is what zero light tracking but high rendering skill looks like. This is it right here for all of us to learn from and see. Also, the arms don't look like they're her arms. They look like they're the arms of a bulkier female. Not quite her. Okay, and then this arm, it needs a bit more of the same treatment, which is darkened, but lightened where we have light illuminating it. So we get a terminator line running right through. That's a lack of studies. That's happening to you because you're not studying cylinders and all of that stuff. And then I allow a little bit of that universal you had before, a bit of it back. So now I'm going to flatten the whole image because I'm running out of time. I'm going to duplicate it, darken the whole piece. And I'm just going to delete away at what should not be darkened, which is the main character. She's now going to be the focal point. I'm going to use dodge tool on highlights on her, just so that she's the focal point again. Then I'm going to delete away at her magical spell. So 1, 2, and then these 2 hands. Everything else should not be even attempting to be as rendered or as high detail as her. And that's what's missing in your work. This organization. It's a lot to explain. It's a lot to try to do all at the same time. But I really hope you understand what I'm talking about. So before, it just seemed like it was just a bunch of slime. You know what I mean? Like there was just slime around her. And after, you have a bit of that magical element, but there's just so much more I'd have to do just to get it to start making more sense. Like some of this magic here you could have done with a way less detailed brush. So before, after, before, after, before, after. One looks like what we see when we look at a magic card, meaning all of those magical elements, and one is missing the magic. It has everything else. In fact, it has too much, but not enough of one thing. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you see what it is that's missing in your gallery that may be causing some of that struggle getting a job. This is what they look for when they hire people for splashes, for card art, for any kind of game assets and anything like that. When they're hiring for character design, when they're hiring for skins, this is what they need. They need an artist that can help them visualize what all of this will look together when they send it off to the 3D modeler and ask them to duplicate it exactly as the artist did it. The artist needs to know how light works in order to tell the 3D modeler what to do. It's you can't just leave out the fact that light glows. You can't do that. It's not something you'll get away with very long. None of the background even had a little bit of that light. So magnitude of light, meaning the brightness, as well as the saturation, as well as the use of soft brush, will help you create that magical glow. But there's still so much I wish I could do. I really do. Unfortunately, I don't have the time. This is one of those full developed illustrations that needs 2 more hours to really clean up for you. But at least I can show one small aspect, which is light tracking, knowing what's silhouetted, what's rim light, what's universal, what the focal point is, tracking all of those things, narrative and composition related decisions. You're doing a lot of one thing and not enough of all the other things. I hope you start implementing these fundamentals in your gallery. Do some form studies with multiple objects and multiple light sources. Do some master studies of people's work that you would like. There's so many amazing magic artists doing this right now. They're doing all this stuff right and better than I could do it. And you can learn from them if you do a master study of their work. All of that stuff will help you. Thank you everyone for coming today. This was a long critique hour. I really appreciate you guys being here, especially on Halloween night. Thank you all for coming. I wanted to try to do 2 pieces for you guys just to make the day a little bit more special. And to get your work critiqued, all you have to do is go to istebrak.com and click on the subreddit icon right here. This is where I found today's piece. And yes, I think it is Scarlet Witch. This is where I found today's piece, and I just sort by new, and I just go through all of these illustrations and pick one and see whatever is relevant, and this is where I found today's piece. Thank you guys for coming. I'll see you guys. Oh, and Portrait Studio. You guys saw Portrait Studio in use today. It's still $45. I'll see you guys next week, Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Have a happy and safe Halloween. I love you guys so much. Bye.